How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. So overall, I really didn't hear much about this book going into it. I didn't see a bunch of ads or anything, which I really wish I did. But whenever I go to the comic book shop, my comic book shop has all the new titles for the week set out in one place so people can see them, which is something that I really wish a lot of other comic book shops would do because so many of them are disorganized messes. But anyway, they had the new comics of the week in this one place, and I always go and I see what's up, you know, I go through and I take a look at all the new titles, and this one caught my eye. Now, that being said, Sergeant Rock isn't a character that I know too terribly much about, and I'm not super big into war stories, but I saw that DC actually put their DC horror label on it, and I'm a big fan of horror. DC horror they first used for their Conjuring tie-in book, The Conjuring the Lover, a prequel to Conjuring Part 3. Actually a really good comic and probably better than the movie it ties into. Check out Conjuring the Lover. Anyway, after that, they did this weird Soul Plumber comic that I never read because it didn't look great. And I was like, oh man, I really wish DC would do something more with this DC horror line. So when I saw it stamped here, I was like, whoa, hey, new DC horror book. And then I looked closer and saw this little note at the bottom. There's a little tag, a little pitch thing here, and it goes, New York Times best-selling author and horror icon Bruce Campbell gives life to Easy Company. Yeah, Bruce Campbell, Ash from the Evil Dead, is writing this book. That's really cool. I know he has written some in the past. He did like his autobiography and stuff, and I think he wrote a few of the movies he directed. I'm not 100% on that. But yeah, Bruce Campbell is writing a comic book now. I mean, I would probably have just picked it up for DC Horror, but when I saw Bruce Campbell, I snatched it off the shelf. I knew I had to have it then, and you really get, you know, you even see they drew him on the cover to look like Bruce. That's pretty cool. Now, overall, having read the actual book, I have to say it's pretty good. It really does go for, I mean, this is Sergeant Rock, an old school World War II character, and it really does go for that old school kind of cheesy comic aesthetic. I mean, literally, in the first few pages of this book, Adolf Hitler rips a guy's head off. That's the kind of story you're going to get here. So, very old school, playing into that cheese a bit. And hey, it falls into that World War II zombie subgenre that's gained a ton of popularity lately. And yeah, what's not to love here, really? It really goes into this first issue is setting everything up in a cool, quick way, and you can tell it's getting everything ready to dive into the action, you know? So, yeah, first issue, good setup, a few really cool scenes with the zombies, but, you know, we're getting all this stuff ready so that the rest of this can be a fun, crazy story, and it's, yeah, they tell you on the bottom, 1 of 6 issues, so this is going to have a planned beginning, middle, and end and tie itself off in a nice little bow. So I really was glad to pick this up, and I think it is pretty fun. So definitely recommend it, especially if that new World War II zombies thing is something you're into, because yeah, this is another fun example of that. Anyway, if you want to see me talk a little bit more about the comic, if you want to see a little bit more of the art, I'm going to switch to the close-up camera and we'll take a closer look at this thing. Now, that being said, I won't be doing any major spoilers, but if you want to see the book up close, we're going to switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle taking a closer look at Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. Bringing this closer into the camera, I just want to say first right off the bat, I really do love that title, you know. nice Sergeant Rock logo there, but this subtitle actually made up of a ton of things that horror fans know and love. Obviously, versus the newest Evil Dead thing, the TV show Ash versus Evil Dead, and then the Army, like Army of Darkness, and then Of the Dead, like all that classic Romero stuff. So really cool title. And also, the nice little DC horror logo here. I love how low it dips, and I really hope they do more stuff with this line. There was a ton of horror comics back in the day, and the freaking comics code really messed that thing up for everybody. But horror comics were really great, and we're starting to see more of them come back, and I hope DC does a lot more stuff with their horror line. There's the regular DC logo, and 1 of 6, again, thank you for telling us how many issues there are. And $3.99, pretty much the new standard comic book price. And then the blurb I told you about mentioning Bruce Campbell is writing this book. That's really great. And we see on the front cover, they've drawn Sergeant Rock to look a lot like Bruce Campbell in one of his classic movie posters there. And we get to see him with his gun going and all these zombie soldiers behind him. Really, really good cover. Just really classic to begin the issue, you know? And also, speaking of covers, let me flip to the back where the credits are. We get to see this first story is titled No Time Like the Present, written by Bruce Campbell with art by Eduardo Risso. And we get to see all these variant cover credits, but the one that really struck me, Charlie Adler, a 1 in 25 variant cover. Charlie Adler did the art for Walking Dead, so cool to see them get him involved with this project. I definitely have to look up and see what that cover looks like. But anyway, after that, let's go ahead and dive into the book really quick. Now, I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the book's about. And I might go into it a little farther than normal because this is an issue 1 and it is primarily set up. But that being said, I won't show you guys everything and I will try to avoid the end. But yeah, let's see what goes on in here. Anyway, that classic introduction I mentioned earlier, guy in front of a map explaining Germany's position. This is Berlin, 1944. This is getting close to the end of the war. It's not going too great for Germany here. And this guy's talking about how they're running low on ammunitions, rations, petrol, but also fresh troops are getting hard to find. Well, that makes Hitler angry, and he starts to strangle this guy, and you get the doctor watching in the background. But this 2-page introduction, it ends with the guy falling to the floor, his hat flying up in the air with a little snap sound, blood shooting all over the map, and then Adolf Hitler holding his severed head. That really tells you what kind of tone we're going to go for. And with this sort of, even more monstrous version of Hitler, I'm thinking he might be the final boss in this book, which would be an insane battle. If this is how World War II ended in the DC universe, that's nuts. But anyway, front lines, Berlin, graveyard, and it's all nice and shadowy. 2 random troops out on patrol when some bad guys show up and they're in the distance and they're gurring very Night of the Living Dead here. And of course, the soldiers are going to try to shoot them, but normal bullets are only barely slowing them down and they're going to get overrun and they're going to call for help on their radio. Well, after that, we get to meet Sergeant Rock himself. Kept his iconic cigar. A lot of that stuff is getting erased nowadays, but they kept his cigar in this book, and he's coordinating some supplies, and, it's basically just grunt work, but he's happy to do it for the cause. However, he gets a note, level 9 assignment. They need Easy Company, and they all start to roll out. And a lot of this book is, you know, sort of like the beginning of a James Bond movie with the debriefing and all. And they're showing them, you know, they've managed to pick up the corpse of one of the zombies, and they start to analyze it, and they're like, you know, the Germans filled it full of a ton of chemicals to regenerate the tissues, but there's also an electronic gizmo on the back of their neck pumping extra electricity into the brain. And then you get a bunch of lines of dialogue like this. They really do keep that old school gruffness. So he's saying there's electricity going right into the brain, and we get the line, "Cripes, whatever happened to an old-fashioned cup of joe?" So there is some lines like that in there. But you know how I said it was kind of a, you know, James Bond-esque? Well, after that, they figure out where they're probably doing this. You know, here's there's some units of production right next to a graveyard. I bet they're over there. And they go and get all their gadgets, you know? So I really do like, you know, using the logic to try to figure out where they are. And then gadget scenes, which are pretty cool. And I do like all their gadgets are stuff that we have readily available now, but back in 1944 would have been crazy, like handheld walkie-talkies or night vision goggles. So I thought that was a fun play on things. But anyway, I won't go too terribly farther in the book other than to say a little hint at the ending is they do have one zombie that they manage to capture alive, and you get this big guy in a cage, and let's just say they find out that they're really, really tough and hard to kill. So yeah, overall, like I said, this is an issue 1. It's primarily set up, but after this, they're going to go out on the field and have to face a bunch of these things. And I don't know if they know about headshots yet. I assume this is a zombie book that headshots are going to be what does it. But yeah, these are big. They really draw them to be like big and monstrous, you know. The chemicals are making them extra tough. These are not just naturally occurring zombies. These are zombies made and designed to fight. So we're going to get a pretty cool zombie story with tough soldier-specific zombies that look like they might be a huge pain to have to go and kill. So yeah, really looking forward to this. Overall, Bruce Campbell has wrote a really fun, you know, old school World War II kind of pulpy story, but it's, you know, Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. I can't turn that down, you know? So yeah, a really fun zombie comic. Really cool to see them doing more with this horror line, and a really good idea to get Bruce Campbell involved. I mean, that's never a bad idea, right? So overall, really, really happy with how this book turned out. And, you know, like I said, this is primarily set up. We're going to get to see in the future issues where this book's twists and turns and uniquenesses are going to lie. So, you know, again, just scratching the surface and getting into here. But overall, I really do like this book so far. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my DC Comics playlist, where if you want to see my review for the Conjuring the Lover, that will be in there as well as something like Robin and Batman by Jeff Lemire. So I've talked about a few DC stuff, and if you want to see more, you can click right there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. DC playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.